So, yeah. So I will try to be quick because I know that we are having a.
This is the new name for us.
This is the, okay, I will give that explanation as well. Yeah, this is the new name for RISE. This is the Science Center of Excellence. We had some copyright issues regarding the name with a Swedish foundation that was also called RISE, and it was doing exactly the same thing. So yeah, this is science, and this is the work that I did with a student at the Open University of Cyprus, a master's student, Christos Siklafidis, and I was his supervisor. So following from the presentation of Marlos earlier, I'm going to talk about perceptions of personalization processes on awareness, data sharing, and transparency. I won't give you the definitions because she did a great job earlier. What I'm going to say is that we know that there are a billion of users on social media and search engines. These are the two most popular platforms on the web. And we usually get information about different topics from these two platforms. So we either go to social media or to a search engine, mostly in order to get information about different topics. And what we know from research is that even though personalization algorithms are trying to reduce our effort to search for information, they might contribute to echo chambers and filter bubbles, contribute to confirmation and increased polarization and fragmentation of the society, confirmation bias, sorry. So there are different approaches on increasing the diversity in personalization, a lot of technical approaches, and we've seen also a lot of work on auditing different algorithms. As also the previous speaker said, these algorithms are usually opaque, so we don't know what it's behind, and the user usually doesn't know how things work. But they can imagine, and usually they get it right, or they might get it wrong, depending on the platform. So what we did, and we also did in previous work, there are only few studies that looked into how frequent users of the web perceive personalization processes in general. And our earlier work also showed that even developers and computer science students, they lack this knowledge on how actually certain personalization algorithms in certain platforms work. So it was interesting for us to go and look into these research questions, how users are perceiving in personalization information access systems and in relation to filter bubbles. What is their view on their personal data used for personalization? How it affects their trust, and does the opacity of personalization algorithms affect their attitudes towards the personalization? And we did an online survey study. It was on virtual communities that are tech related. We had 61 active members answering this survey, and you can see the demographics below and their education level. So as we can see, these are frequent users of both search engines and social media. And we asked them about how aware they are on algorithmic processes. So almost all applications that we use daily are driven by an algorithm. And we can see that they are aware that we have algorithms driving our experiences, and also that we don't get the same results as others. However, it was interesting for us to see that 20% of those people who are active users, they know that there are algorithms behind. They didn't know how to answer this question. And although this is a small sample, it's still quite interesting and intriguing for us for future work. So we then asked them how they believe the algorithms are treating the users, whether the algorithms treat all users in the same way, whether their interaction with social media and search engines influences the content that they are going to be recommended in the future, and whether the applications that we use daily are driven by an algorithm. And we can see here comparative the results from their responses. So we can see that for the interaction with social media and search engine content and how this is influencing the content that they will be recommending in the future, we can see that there are people who responded quite negatively. So probably they are not aware. We also have more results in the paper. For example, there are differences in the age groups. We can see that participants in the age group of 19 to 25 were marginally statistically significant, more negative compared to other age groups regarding overall their awareness. Now, regarding specifically the filter bubble effect, we provided them a definition about what filter bubble is and how it affects their interaction online. And then we ask them whether they believe they're in a filter bubble and whether the filter bubble they are being in is useful for them. And we can see that regarding the first question, we have 80% that they are responding that they don't believe they are in a filter bubble, and that being in a filter bubble is not useful for them. However, there are also people who actually responded positively. So more results in terms of the data sharing for personalization. People, they would rather not receive any personalized content if they have to share more data. So we get the feeling that the people overall, they don't like the idea of sharing even more data, even though they want to receive more accurate content regarding the information that they're getting online. They're still don't want to, they don't have the willingness to share their data. Regarding the transparency of personalization services, like the previous speaker, we can see that the people in our sample group, they don't understand how actually most of the algorithms behind these services work, and since they don't understand, they are not willing to actually contribute more content, even though we had responses claiming that, yeah, I like how I can find what I am searching for easier. They are still reluctant, and they don't understand how things work. Overall, the attitude towards personalization is that this is very convenient for us. However, I don't trust how my personal data is being used for personalization, and they should be generating more accurate predictions based on my data. So overall, we wanted to see whether participants who consent to applications to manage their data, since they are so negative in terms of I don't want to share data, whether they actually trust how their data are being used for providing personalization services. And it was no surprise that although they are sharing their data, they're willing to share data to get services, they don't trust how these data are being used, or they're not aware how these data are being used actually by the algorithms. So what was the outcome overall from this short and small study? It was that we need to enhance user awareness of algorithmic processes as well as the transparency of the systems. We found out that there's a strong relationship between the willingness of the user to share the data and the trustworthiness of a system, and that more transparency and the need to control over our personal data needs to be used in the algorithms. Overall, we're coming back to explanations. We need to provide explanations on the collected data, how the collected data are being used, how it impacts the content the user is receiving, and overall to help the user understand and increase the overall trust of the system. However, we can see that we cannot get rid of personalization. We don't want to get rid of personalization, but we need to improve the overall processes in order for the user to feel comfortable. And some advertising here. We are developing tools in the FAIR group at Science. We're developing tools for running research and also for providing educational training and courses. We also are building tools for explanations. So to understand how users are perceiving different kinds of explanations in different environments. So thank you very much. I hope that I didn't, yeah, it's just 5 minutes over. Any questions?
I think there's an interesting talk from Elko Herder later in the panel about the equilibrium of personalization and personal information sensitivity. Yeah. So looking forward to your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, also really interesting and really well connected to the previous theme indeed. I was wondering, I'm not sure if I missed it, if you had any question about the time, if they would be willing to spend time and effort on personalization while, for example, hiding some personal information. Because what I see a little bit is that everybody wants their personal data to be protected, but then nobody wants to spend actually time on it, that it's just clicking, I accept or decline everything, and curating this is actually something that is not trivial. I think perhaps in the future it could be part of like a whole interaction dialogue. Was there anything in the questionnaire about that? Or?
No, we didn't look into time, but that's quite interesting actually. And yeah, thank you very much. We didn't, yeah, it is because we see in different studies, because we run quite a few studies now, and we're actually we have one coming up with lawyers as well, because it's very relevant to them, the issue of transparency in information access systems and stuff. So, but we didn't look into how the time spent by the user is actually hiding their data or consenting to data sharing is actually affecting. That would be very interesting. Yeah.
And also, if they had any negative experiences, for example, that such cases of mistrust that led them abandoning a service, because I have heard some personal stories of friends or relatives that mistrusted the system after suspecting that personalization works in a suspicious
went over,
way. And then, for example, they stopped using Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be something.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. I think I should make a comment to the last question. I should phrase it, it's an issue of control. I mean, what was described as the time spent is related very much to the design of the service. And I think also the previous girl from Utrecht described the level of control you're allowed. If it's something which is very clear, very obvious that you can tick off personalization or not, or filter bubble or not, then people would use it. If it's well hidden somewhere a long way out, that relates to time, obviously, because it takes more time. But so it's the design and how much it allows control to you. Now, my question is relating to this. I like the fact that you use the filter bubble notion, which is very strong. It means you are close to observe and to be exposed to information that you are seem to like, so you don't know anything new, and that affects society, the democracy. I mean, we only like to hear the views of people who feel and think like me, or listen to music like me. So this doesn't expose us to new ideas, to new and new views or to new media, to new culture or whatever is the content. Now, the question is, do people understand this notion? I mean, is it because it's your message was not very clear? You said, okay, they are not, they don't want to be sort of used to exploit their personal data, but on the other hand, they don't mind so much and they would like to have this service because it adapts better to their likes. So, I mean, people like this filter bubble or don't they? And this is a question which is not clear yet, and we don't really know what's happening. And as Yorgos said earlier, we're looking forward to the discussion this later on after the coffee break, where perhaps there's going to be a discussion about it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, the issue about the filter bubble is that, okay, we are providing definitions. I mean, in this case, we also provided a definition for them. So we have a common understanding, at least based on the definition of what is a filter bubble in simple words. However, I don't think that the users are actually, or people in general, because the users are us using these systems, are actually understanding the impact of this phenomenon in the society in general. I mean, even though we have it on news everywhere about the election results and this and that, which is actually an effect of the filter bubble. But still, people, they don't have a perception of what that is. And it will be interesting in the future to see whether we can clear this out. So at least for societal, for the favor of the society. Thank you.